We're back. It is episode. Here we go. Here's the first problem. I have no clue what episode this is.
78.
78. I knew that.
Episode 78 of the Metal Roundtable. I am
Even
Metal Robin. With me, as always, is the great
Carcass John.
Carcass John. And now, kids, we have an announcement for you. With us, as always, is the great, from here forward, Scott Waters.
Here to stay. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's some effects right there.
Awesome. Can you guys hear everything okay? I'm getting the glitchy audio thing, but I think it'll work itself out in a second.
I mean that.
Yep, that's what it sounds like.
I mean, it really sounded like that.
To me, it does. Yes, it's very weird, but I am told that it will work itself out in a few seconds. So we'll see. How are you boys?
Good, man. How about Christmas? You guys have a good Christmas?
Awesome. It was awesome. Quiet, and it was cold and rainy and nasty here in Texas. It was awful. It's awesome.
It was beautiful here.
What's
up, Isaiah?
Yeah, it was nice here too. Very quiet. Got a couple of nice musical presents from my mom, which was nice. Got the new Fates Warning, new Deep Purple on vinyl. That was nice.
Oh, that new Deep Purple's not bad.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. How about the Fates Warning?
It's good. It's again, if you're looking for early Fates Warning, it's not going to happen for you. If you like the more progressive rock stuff they've been doing over the last few years, it's pretty much continuing in that.
Okay.
Thing.
Well, they lost me sort of at No Exit, and I'm sorry that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's. I like the progressive rock stuff, so I like it, but it's definitely different. Classic metal stuff, and the Arc era stuff is what I like the best.
Of course. Okay. Well,
I think my audio issues are starting to clear up a little bit.
You think so?
Maybe.
How about your visual issues? Because I bet you can't read this.
Y'all could be making fun of my mom. I have no idea.
All right, blow that shirt off so we can see it.
I literally have no clue what you guys are saying. But okay, so here we go with the unreadable logo. Okay. I know what this is. I don't have a clue how to say it, but it's that one with like 26 letters in there.
36
name,
letters
right?
From South Africa. And I don't even know where to begin to even say their name.
Yeah.
So, but I do it for you guys because you love those shirts so much.
Heck yeah, we do.
I got Motivic.
Motivic, yes.
Of course, but that's a cool band with
it's a killer record.
And an easy logo to read. I like it.
Yep.
Holy cow, my connection is bad. I mean, I'm just robot voice. Can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs up.
Can hear you just fine.
Thumbs up.
Okay, I'll keep trying to roll with it. So we want to officially let everybody know that as Scott came in and helped me out for a few weeks, which I very much appreciate, took a little time away. And he just fits so well that it just makes sense to keep him on board. So we are now a true power trio with the three of us, and we're very glad to have you on board, sir.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So, and there went the Carcass.
Never said we were professionals.
Hey, there we go. Now I can hear perfectly. Beautiful.
Unbelievable.
I can hear Scott. Perfect. All right. Well, anyway, enough with the technical BS. So we wanted to talk about something today that I think all of us have had some experience with. And instead of John reading a legal pad full of 56, some list or something,
Eat me.
I knew you had a list close.
Sit on it. Well, no, see, I'm going to try something different because you go ahead and announce what we're going to do. But I got a twist on that. So you just go right ahead.
Okay.
Thanks, Danielle.
So metal trio and carcass leaves. That's funny. So one of the things that we have talked about in many of the episodes in the past is how we've done meet and greets and whatever. And this is not that. That's not what we're talking about. Because at a meet and greet, you could pay, you can meet almost any of your favorite bands these days. But what I'm talking about is actual rock star interfacings. You met them at a show. You did work with them. You ran into them somewhere. I don't know. And those experiences. And so I'll let you guys kick it off. But that's what we want to talk about today is when you run into rock stars, what are some of your best interfacings with your heroes? And I've got some cool stories. Carcass has a list.
Okay, listen.
I picked a few that I had some cool stories about. So
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and I did the same thing, but what I did is yes, because Carcass makes lists because Carcass is old. And if Carcass doesn't write it down, Carcass doesn't remember. Okay, because a sharp pencil is better than a dull mind. So I wrote down a bunch of names and I want you guys to choose who I talk about.
Okay.
How about that?
Perfect.
So I have a list of names and you can just say, okay, I want to hear about, that person.
Perfect.
But you guys can go ahead and start. Go ahead.
All right.
Kick us off,
Or do you want me
Scott.
to start?
You got it. I'll start. Not a problem. Let's see. This is the first one I'm going to do. I got some stuff over here. So I just thought I would. This was kind of fun. In the '90s, I was heavily into this thrash band called Vengeance Rising, and I brought a little visual along. Actually, I'll take it out of this thing so it doesn't get all that glare. There's the visual. So Vengeance Rising, huge fan of this band back in the 1988, 89. I bought their first album, Human Sacrifice, is a brand new album. Moved to New Mexico in 1989. And then 1990, they were on their tour for their second album, Once Dead. And they were playing at a club in Albuquerque and went to the club, went to the show. First band goes on, local band opening up. Second band goes on, another local band opening up. Third band goes on, another local band opening up. I'm like, what's going on? So I had to be friends with Paul Scazafava from the Musketeers, who was one of the bands that opened. I'm like, what's the deal? He goes, well, Vengeance isn't here yet. Their van broke down. They're still on their way. So they're like pretty much just trying to fill space until the band gets there. Band doesn't show up until like 1 o'clock in the morning. The crowd pretty much, half the crowd cleared out by that time and gave up. But I stuck around anyhow, and they came flying into the club, throwing stuff. And here, they threw all this crap at me. Here, set up our merch table for us and start selling our stuff. Me? Okay. So I did. I set up their merch table, put all their stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what the prices are. What are the prices on these damn shirts? There's a list in there somewhere. Find it. So I'm selling their crap. After the show was over with, they ended up only getting to play 3 songs because by the time they get their gear and everything set up, the club has to close at 2 o'clock. So they play their 3 songs, 4 songs, whatever it was, get off stage, and I stick around the club to talk to him afterwards. And the club owner locks the door and lets the crowd out, locks the door, won't let the band leave or myself leave, and pulls out a gun and says, "Aren't none of you leaving until I get my money?" And we're like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "In my contract, it says I get 25% or whatever it is of your merch sales that you sold here. So I need to know exactly how much you sold, and I get 25% of that." And Vengeance pulls out and anyhow, it's a big old fight over who gets money, and there's nothing in Vengeance's contract about it. So they didn't add any extra costs onto their shirts to do that. So they refused to pay it. So they wouldn't let the band leave. Finally, the cops came and let us out. But got to meet Vengeance, got to meet the band that way for the first time. Ended up sitting in a room with Roger Martinez, the vocalist, for like half an hour, 40 minutes, just talking. Got to know him really well. So anyhow, it was fun. I had him sign this little picture here, and he was the only one I had sign it. Signed it right there, put his phone number on there and everything. And then, of course, come 20 years later, 2004 or so like that, I ended up singing in the band, filling in for Roger when they did their Vengeance Rising reunion tour. So I get to my very first practice with the Vengeance Rising guys, and I take this photo with me, and I pull this photo out, and I'm like, here, guys. And I bring a marker along. I want you guys to sign this. They're like, what's that? I'm like, it's a photo. You want us to sign it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, we're just a bunch of schlubs. I don't care. I still want you to sign it. And you might be schlubs to yourself, but I was a huge fan. Anyhow, so they all signed it for me. They thought it was a joke. They all wrote on here, to Scott, the replacement, and weird stuff like that.
Unbelievable.
But I
held at gunpoint for merch money.
He didn't hold us like, he didn't actually, he pulled the gun out. He didn't point it at anybody, but he did pull the gun out and let us know he had it, and he wasn't letting us leave until it got straightened out and the police were on their way.
That sounds like my gig at with Demolition Hammer a couple of years ago when they were touring, and they just they didn't reluctantly, they brought in, I mean, a pile of stuff, and I didn't know how they would be received because I didn't know if anybody even knew who Demolition Hammer was. Well, as it turns out, we had a benchmark evening, and I'm not going to say the exact number, but the club guy comes up and says, "Hey, I want my 20%," and I'm like, and I looked at Steve and I said, and he said, "Yeah, just go ahead and give it to him." Well, being a smart merch man, I had one pocket full and the other pocket with more. And so he got the pocket with some and not with everything. But anyway, that's so weird how those club guys try to sneak that in there. Anyway.
I learned a story from Eric Carr one time. Eric Carr, when he did his very first, his tryout for Kiss, he took his Kiss record with him and had the band sign it. And they thought that was weird or cool or whatever. But Eric Carr said, "Hey, man, I may never, ever see these guys again. Might as well get them to sign it." So I thought the same thing with Vengeance. I'm like, I might never, ever see these guys again. So I might as well get them to sign my picture.
Yeah, heck, why not? You never know.
There you go. Next.
Okay, I have 12 names on my list. You want to hear the first four, the second four, or the third four?
First four.
Hold it up where I can see it, because I can't I can't understand a word you guys are saying.
Pick from the first four.
Okay, first four. Ed Wynn from Osric Tentacles, King Diamond, Bobby Blitz and Dee Dee Verney, or Gene Hoglan.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I'm easy choice for me, but
go ahead.
I'd say Bobby Blitz.
Okay.
I'm a huge Overkill fan, so.
Okay, so am I. And this is one of those deals where normally, I don't know about you, but I always show up early. I always like to try and get to the gig early, and Rob is back. Can you hear us? No. Anyway, so Overkill, this was 2007 on the Gigantour, which is a big, spectacular whatever. This had, what do you call it? Megadeth was the headliner. It had Lamb of God. It had Opeth. It had Arch Enemy. And that was our angle, was that I knew Michael Ammett from Arch Enemy, and he got us in. But Overkill was playing two shows that year. One at the Zoo Amphitheater in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and then one in New Jersey to film a video. So I thought, well, that's 3 hours away, so we're gonna drive up there. Well, my friend Rob Doom, bless his heart, is rarely on time, and he had to drive all the way from Houston to Dallas, and then we were going to take the 3-hour drive to Oklahoma City. Well, I knew that Overkill went on early, and I knew that we could get backstage, so I was pretty stoked to get there early and hear them play for the first time since the early 90s. And so, of course, I'm looking at my watch. Well, Rob arrives at about 12:30. And it's 180 miles from my house to the amphitheater. So needless to say, no laws, every law driving was broken. And and we got there just about the time they were striking the first downbeat. And so when we got backstage, there was a bunch of guys. They had a little table set up, and Dee Dee and Bobby were sitting there signing autographs. And I had a couple items, including a poster from a show in Houston. And Rob, bless his heart again, had a suitcase full of Overkill stuff. I mean, records and posters and stuff, backstage passes and stuff that even the band, by their own admittance, had never seen. So when we got in line, the security guard says, "Hey, man, only one item per person." And Bobby Blitz said, "Hey, no way. Let me see what he's got in that suitcase." And so he moved us straight to the front of the line and then told us, "Hang out afterwards. Let's get these people out of the way because I want to see what's in the bag of tricks." And we sat around and talked to those guys for over an hour as we listened to music in the background, but it was so engaging, and they were tripping out because it's cool to see a band look at something that they know existed, but they don't have, and they probably never have seen one, including tour posters and certain types of pressings. And of course, we know Rob Doom, and he's got some unusual stuff. But anyway, yes, according to that last comment, get there early and leave late. Hopefully not by gunpoint. Okay, Metal Rob.
Well, I have successfully ditched myself from the broadcast and come back in, and I'm pleased to report that I can actually tell what's going on now. So.
And I can hear you.
Could you hear me before?
Yes.
Okay, man, I don't get it. I don't know. Anyway, so I have no idea who you talked about, except I heard the tail end and it was Bobby Blitz, and I know that Scott talked about Vengeance. So... and that's all I know. And if I hadn't seen the picture, I wouldn't have known one word Scott said. But it's definitely it's something on my end. I think I know what I need to do to fix this. Anyway, enough about my stupid technical problems. So the coolest Rockstar interfacings that I've had, I can run through one or two super fast, and then I'll save a couple for later. But I met Zach Wilde at a guitar show. Back in, this had to be 91, 92, right around No More Tears. And he was so young. And I remember nobody really knew who he was. I mean, some people kind of knew that he was Ozzy's new guitar player or whatever, but people really weren't paying that much attention. And so we went by and saw that he was going to be there. And there were just a few of us in line. And what I remember the most about him was when he talked to you, he talked to you. He did not get distracted by anything. And the cool thing was when he got to us, I remember somebody came up and asked him something. And he said, "Hey, I'm talking to these guys right now. I want to talk to you, but can you hang out for just a minute? I want to take care of these guys and see what they've got going on and all that." And he was just super friendly. And if there's any kind of customer service involved in meeting your fans, he certainly was the top of the list. Huh. And he took time to take pictures with us and sign whatever we had. And it was just super cool. But even in a guitar show setting where he's going to be meeting, people, and that's what he's there for, it wasn't a cattle call thing at all. He was just so freaking down to earth. Another funny one that happened probably, 15, 20 years ago, I met George Lynch at the Greater Southwest Guitar Show as well. Met several people there over the years. But we were first in line at his booth by accident, my buddy Chris and I. And I remember... they were like, "Hey, you guys are first in line. We're going to start the line here, and George is going to come out in a minute, and you can get whatever signed and all that kind of stuff." And they were super, super nice at the booth. So George comes out. My buddy is a massive Lynch fan, and so I guess I was nervous on his behalf, and I wish I'd followed through with what actually happened. So I got nervous on behalf of my buddy, because this is like his guitar god hero, and I handed him my damn camera to take a picture. Because we were going to get a picture with George. I hand him the camera, and George, without skipping a beat, is like, hey, do you want me to take a picture of you guys or what? And I wish that I had let him take a picture of Chris. Oh, it's Chris Manning, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's funny.
I wish that I had let him take a picture of Chris and I just so that I could absolutely, yeah, thanks, Papa Wayne. I did try that. But I wish that I'd let George take the picture of Chris and I with no context, and I would have cherished that for the rest of my life, trying to convince people that George Lynch took that picture. So that was, and he was super funny about it. So that was cool. And in the picture that I have with George, I got this big stupid smile on my face, and George is giving the, like, are you sure you know what you're doing here? It's very funny to me. So that was, I'll come back at the end. Go ahead.
Right on.
Scott.
Okay. First of all, I did not get to meet Zach Wilde, but I stood in line to meet Zach Wilde at was one of those, record signing things for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it was. And then he never showed up. Excuse me. However, it was, I believe it was before Ozfest, something like that. So something happened. He couldn't make it, but he, I guess he called in and told us, it was at one of the bookstores. And he called the bookstore and said, I want every one of their addresses. And sure enough, man, in the mail, some weeks later, I got an autographed poster from Zach Wilde.
Huh.
Wow. Cool.
So
wow.
Can't complain about that.
That is customer service.
And then I also met Overkill a few times, twice actually. Both times they were very cool. I mean, Bobby and Dee Dee were both very cool. My son was with me one of the times, and they took great pride in talking to my little son with his long blonde hair at the time. He was little, he was like 12. And they signed his vest for him. They signed my stuff. But Derek Taylor, man, I don't know what it is with him. Both times I met him, huge fan of the band. First time I met him, I asked him, I walked up to him, hey man, he was standing outside of the club. Hey man, do you mind signing my CD? Yeah, man, hang on a second. I'm gonna make a phone call. Pulls this thing out of his, starts walking, and walks away. I was like, all right, right on. I'll get with him later. So I stuck around after the show, saw him after the show, walked up, hey man, do you mind signing my CD? I ain't got time for that, man. Walked on the bus. Like,
I've had similar interaction, but yeah, whatever.
With him, yeah, it was kind of weird. But in any case, those are, I just wanted to add on to your story. So this one is a band called Fireball Ministry. Remember these guys?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Best $1.99 CD I ever bought.
I freaking love that record.
I love this record.
It's a good one.
Absolutely love it.
I don't know how it was a brand new release. I don't know why they were selling it for $1.99, but a friend of mine actually called and said, hey man, do you want this? I'm like, yeah, pick it up for me. I'll check it out. Love this record. And then they were touring with Dio for this record. And I was enthralled by these guys on stage. They were fantastic on stage. I mean, just and I was standing right in front of Janice Tanaka, the bass player at the time, and she was just, I mean, besides being, not hard on the eyes, you know what I mean? She was also just a great bass player, and she just had great stage presence. She had this vest on, like, I don't know where mine's over there, the vest with all the patches and buttons on it and stuff like that. So I was just enthralled by her. I mean, she was just so great. But she reached down and she pointed at me and she chucked a pick my way. And I was like, all right. And I went to grab the pick, and some dude, man, he was just like, and at the time I was bodybuilding, so I could have pummeled the guy, but I decided it wasn't worth it for a guitar pick. Some guy, he just barreled over top me to get this damn pick. And I'm like, you want it that bad? You can have the damn thing. So anyhow, didn't meet him at the time. Just watched the show, loved him. Well, I decided after that I was going to email Janice Tanaka and just say, hey man, I appreciate the pointing of the pointing and throwing the pick at me. I didn't get it, but that was cool. I mean, she may not have known who I was anyhow. She may have just been pointing at the audience for all I knew, but sure damn enough, she knew who I was when I emailed her, and she emailed me back right away. She goes, I saw you and I saw that asshole.
Oh man.
She goes, let me have your address. I want to send you something. So she sent me a huge, like 18 by 24 by 36 tour poster signed by her. And it said, Scott, you're hot, Janice Tanaka. And I was like, that's nice. I'm not going to show that to my wife.
I'll forward her a link to this
But
episode.
now she knows.
Well, she knows. I eventually had it framed and hang, and this is the rest of the story. So anyhow, later on down the road, the band's touring again, and she was gone. She had left to play with Pink of all people. But I mean, I guess you got to go where the money's at, you know.
Girls got to pay the bills.
So she sent me a letter. I still have the letter. She said, I'm leaving Fireball Ministry to go to Pink. She sent me a Pink pick and a couple Fireball Ministry picks and the poster. In any case, so a year or so later, Fireball Ministry is coming through town again. Now they're the headliners on this show. So I go to see them again, show up at the show. There's nobody there. The club is freaking empty. So I stand out in the back. I'm like, I'm going to meet these guys, get them to sign that poster. So I wait for them to pull up, see their van pull up and everything. And then they're walking up and they're like, you work for the club? And I'm like, no, but I said, if you need a hand, I'll be more than happy to hand it. Oh, hell yeah, we could use a hand. So I ended up roadieing for them that day and helping them set up the stage and carrying all their crap in. So after the show, I had them sign the poster, and they all gave me guitar picks too. Every single one of them wanted to scribble over Janice's face. I'm like, please don't wreck my poster. I understand you don't like her, but please don't wreck my poster. They were like, we just want to scribble out her face. Can I draw a mustache? Please don't. But they were very, very cool guys, and they're great set. And the funny thing was, when they finally went on stage, that show that I roadied for, there was me and 2 other people in the room.
Oh man,
the club did not advertise the show at all. And the only reason I knew is because I looked on their website and got it off their website. So they played the entire set just for me and 2 other guys. And then he got to the end, they're like, you guys want us to play some more? I'm like, heck yeah, man. And he's like, here's some songs that we know. Here, pick one. So I ended up picking a song, and they played. Can't remember what it was. It was a cover song, but they played a cover song. In any case, I had them sign the CD as well. There it is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right on.
I don't have that one. I only have the one you showed a minute ago.
Yeah, that was their second full-length album. They had one full-length before this and an EP, and I think they've had 2 or 3 since.
Oh, okay. I need to investigate that.
Yeah, but they've gone through bass players, like Spinal Tap's gone through drummers, but the rest of the band's been pretty stable.
As long as they didn't self-combust.
Not that I'm aware of. So that's my Fireball Ministry story. Very cool guys, great band, and I can't even listen to that album without thinking how cool they were on stage.
That's awesome. Carcass, are you going or is it me?
I'm gonna go, and I got 4 more names, so you get to pick which 4 names. Okay, here we go. Barney Greenway. Away from Voivod, which is Dennis Langaway.
Barney Greenway's Napalm Death, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael Ammett.
Ah.
Or Eric Johnson.
Man, I'm a Barney fan. I think I know the story.
Go ahead, pick it. I picked the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Barney, as we know, and I think that was the night that I said, you watch, Rob, these guys are going to blow your mind. And you thought, whatever, Napalm Death, I'll go get a drink and maybe go to the bathroom. And guess what happened?
They blew my wig off. See?
That's right. That's why he doesn't have any hair left. Anyway, so I go backstage and I'm just hanging out. And Barney comes up to me and he says, hey, man, hey, mate, did you enjoy the set? And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact. And I said, we kind of reminisced a little bit. And he sort of remembered from the Grind Crusher tour back in the 90s when I got my name. And I told him I was looking for Dennis from Voivod because I had just purchased his book. I don't know if you're familiar with Voivod, but Dennis, the bass player, draws all their graphics.
Awesome artist.
And so he has this giant hardback book of things. And I said, and he goes, well, no problem, mate. I'll help you find him. And so here I am wandering around with Barney Greenway back there where the buses are back there. And I think, was that Gas Monkey Live?
Yeah.
That was at Gas Monkey Live. And I think you had about all you could handle. And so we find Dennis, and let's just say that he's about as spaced out as his artwork is, because he's relaxing after the show. And I said, hey, I would really appreciate it if you'd sign my book. And he said, and so here we are, the 3 of us sit around interacting, talking about the show and the greatness of both bands, really. And not only did he sign the book, but he drew me a picture. So I not only have the autograph, but I have
that's cool.
a nice little spaced out graphic with his stage name Away. And I thought that was that was cool because you know me, I like a little art myself, and I'm always seeking some sort of inspiration. And I've always admired it. And I saw that they had a book, and I bought the last one that they had. In fact, this was the one that's on the table and that they use for, you know, like they sell books, they sell patches, they sell records. And I said, well, I need a book. She looked in the merch gal looked in the box, and she's like, we're all out. And I said, well, how about this one? So she had to go back and ask him, can I sell the very last copy? And he said yes. And so that has a great
treasure.
That is a real treasure. And so that's my story of Barney and Away, or Dennis.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I do remember parts of that story. You didn't tell me the whole story, but that's fantastic. That's the kind of stuff that just makes me smile. I went when I was in the Air Force, I worked security part-time with this company called D&L, who did, you know, we did motocross, and we did, you know, I was at the barricade for Genesis and The Cure and all this kind of stuff, working security. And I'm a little dude, but they always thought it was funny to take me down front. Like, what am I going to do? But anyway, through this D&L security connection that I had in the Air Force, this guy comes in one day and he says, hey, we want to get you to work security for this band this weekend. They're doing a benefit softball game. And I said, and Scott's going to love this. And I said, well, tell me who it is, because I didn't really want to do it. What's up, TJ? And I didn't really want to do it. It was going to be on a Saturday, and I kind of wanted to just go home and do whatever, you know, I did as a 22-year-old then, or however old I was. And he's like, no, come on, I really need the help. I don't know who they are, but it's two different bands. So I get there the next morning, and he says, I want you on the front gate. So when the limo gets here, I want you to get in and show them where to go, because they had to go through this maze of ball fields and whatever to get to the dugouts that were set up for them to play this benefit softball game for the local radio station. So I get in the limo, and I sit next to the driver, and I look over at him and say, hey, you're going to go here and there and blah, blah, blah. And I turn around, and over my shoulder is Ted Nugent and Michael Cordelone from Damn Yankees. And in the car behind them is the rest of Damn Yankees and Bad Company. So for the next 2 or 3 hours, I sat hip to hip with Ted Nugent in the dugout and pass him stuff for people to sign. And he was the most, I don't care what you think about the guy politically, I don't care about any of that stuff. He was the nicest dude ever. He was so kind and so patient to hang out and talk to his fans, and he just got it, and that was cool. And Tommy Shaw was also very nice. I'm also very fortunate to have very briefly met and taken a picture of, not with, like a bonehead, of Brian Howe, the late Brian Howe. I met him just for a second, and all those dudes were nice. There was one dude out of both of the bands that was kind of a jackwagon, but I won't talk about that. But briefly, I want to rattle a couple off, and then I want to tell my story at the end, if that's cool. So Andy Timmons is a first-class individual. First-class individual. I had not gotten to know him, but gotten acquainted kind of with him because I'd been to a lot of shows. He lives here in McKinney. And so I would see him at shows and stuff, and I took him this promo thing to get signed that I got him to sign at a guitar show. I asked him about it, and he said, no, I don't have one. I said, next time I see you, I will give you mine. And he said, oh, man, that's awesome, because I love to have stuff like that. So sure enough, years go by. He's playing at the Guitar Sanctuary here in town, and I take that CD, and he says, he's gotten one in the meantime to keep it. So I have a picture of me, him, and that CD, and then he signed a picture. So anyway, another couple of shows go by, another couple of meetings go by, and I'm going to watch him headline down here at the Guitar Sanctuary, which is literally up the street from my house. It's 60 seconds if I don't have to stop at the light. Beautiful, wonderful venue, caters to guitar players, and so you get to see a lot of that kind of thing. Eric Gales has played there anyway. So Andy's playing and he's headlining, and I'm getting there. I think I'm walking in as he's about to play, or maybe I'd stepped out to the bathroom or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, they announce his name to come up on stage. I meet him at the stairs. He's walking down the stairs, and I'm walking in front of the staircase. He stops. He puts his guitar behind his back, gives me a double arm hug, and says, "Man, it is great to see you. Thanks for coming to the show." And I'm just going, "Thanks, Andy Timmons. No problem." And he's just the nicest dude. So another couple of that I want to mention real quick. I had a great interfacing with Jason McMaster one time. Wanted to get a picture with him, and my ex-wife wanted to get a picture with him. So they took a picture, and then he was like, "No, I don't think that one turned out." And he kept pulling her over close to get another picture. So that was pretty funny, but he was super sweet and a really nice guy. I also met, do you know who this is?
Looks familiar. I don't know. I can't tell.
Solinger.
That is Solinger. Johnny Solinger. And I'll be real quick. He was super nice and very accommodating. Met him at a Skid Row show. How about that? Years ago, when they were a local Dallas band, got him to sign this thing. And he was super funny, super nice. That picture is just a treasure. And then he goes on to sing in Skid Row. And of course, through the Carcass, I've gotten to know two of my absolute metal heroes in Hellstar with James and Larry. And the access that they have given me that the Carcass had from knowing those guys for so many years has been unbelievable. And I can't believe sometimes when my phone rings and it says Larry Berrigan. I still can't believe that. That's still awesome to me. And he's become quite a good friend, and I've been able to work on some stuff that they've done. But that's just, to me, that's just priceless. And I just appreciate those guys. And they're just as nice as they can be. And Carcass will echo that.
Yeah, they're exceptional guys. In fact, Larry just walked into your house that one time. I remember he was in town, and you kind of invited him over, and he showed up on set. Yeah, I've known James a long time. He actually used to work for me kind of part time when he'd come in and off the road when they were touring extensively, and he's always been very accommodating, always been very mindful. He's known my kids since they were infants, and they're in their 30s, and so it's been a long road, and they're still out there taking no prisoners and doing their thing. And every time I see him, I think, man, they can't get any better than the last time I saw them. And then they seem to just, I mean,
they're crushing.
That show that we saw at Trees a month ago or so, was just devastating. It was so good. Yeah. And but it helps when the guys are nice and accommodating, and those guys have been friends a long time.
Yeah, and they always take time with their people. Are y'all good? I've got one more.
That's up to you.
Go ahead, Scott.
Scott, go ahead.
I've got 4 hot names to run by you, and then you let me know.
All right, I'll go real quick. I'm going to tag on to your Ted Nugent story because I've met Nugent 3 times. First time was just at a book signing. He was there with his wife's book, and he was signing. I was there with my son. Again, he was young, long blonde hair. He was also a Ted Nugent fan. He was a young drummer at the time. So they also had the rule you can only get one thing signed, and they were rushing people through. But when my wife and myself and my son got to there, he started talking to my son, and they were like trying to rush us through. And Nugent says to the security guy, "Hey, hang on a second. I'm talking to this kid." And so he because it was in his pocket. He pulls out a guitar pick and hands it to my son. He goes, "I want to give you this. I still have the pick." He said, but I'm only going to give you this if you promise that you're not going to poison yourself with substances in the future. And he hands him, and he just tells him to stay away from drugs, basically.
Yeah.
Pick and signs his stuff for him, and it was just a really cool experience. And then I was just in passing. But then a couple years later, I met this guy online who liked my Ted Nugent page on my No Life Till Metal page, and he just liked it. We started chatting back and forth, and we just became buddies online. Just someone, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. How's everything happening? How's Christmas? That kind of thing. And one day he says to me, hey man, because I could use some prayer or good vibes or whatever you got, man. I'm like, well, what's going on, man? He's my sister had a stroke, and he goes, it's just a bad scene. They don't know if she's gonna make it. And I said, all right, man. I said, that sucks. I'm sorry, nothing I could do. I said, I'll pray for you. Not a big deal. And for me, to say something like that. But when I say that, I meant it. I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna think about you. I'm gonna lift you up to God because I'm a Christian. So. The funny thing is, though, every 2 to 3 weeks, I'd give him a call. Hey, dude, how's your sister doing? Hey, dude, how's your sister doing? Hardly ever got through to him, but I would just leave a message on the phone to him. And that lasted for a year. I did talk to him a few times, and a year goes by, and he finally calls me up, and he's like, dude, he goes, my sister can drive again. He goes, it's so amazing. So he just went into, he says, I want to send you a gift. I'm like, dude, you don't have to send me a gift. No, you don't understand. I have to send you this. I'm like, all right, dude. I said, I was just being, a friend and, checking in on you. He goes, no, you don't understand. So anyhow, he sends me this gift. Flies me out to Beaver Creek, Wisconsin. And he meets me there in Beaver Creek, Wisconsin. And he buys me not only backstage passes for the show, but he spent so much money at Ted Nugent's, sorry about that. He spent so much money at Ted Nugent's camp for kids that Ted, Ted gave him a full day. We just hung out with him from the morning until Ted left that evening. We spent the entire day hanging out with Ted Nugent.
Wow.
It was incredible. I mean, and he treated us so nice. And I mean, like Rob was saying, it was really, really incredible. But the cool thing about the story was he gave me some signed stuff. I got the guitar, there's a drumstick back here and a drum head and all. Mm-hmm. He gave me all kinds of stuff. And my buddy brought a suitcase like your friend did of stuff to get signed. He sat there for an hour signing stuff for this guy. But
that's awesome.
The funny thing is I'm like, so I really appreciate the gift from this guy. Ted Nugent's always one of my favorites. But he said, let me tell you why I gave you this gift. He goes, what you don't understand is this. He goes, I was suicidal. He goes, and every time I was thinking about it. He goes, check my messages on my phone, and I would be this guy. Hey man, how you doing? What's up? Just call and check on your sister. And he goes, and it would always make me laugh. And he goes, and it would get me out of my funk. He says, you don't know how many times you saved my life. And I was like, wow. That's incredible. So anyhow, that's a very long story put into a very short story.
No, that's awesome, man. You never know what kind of effect you're going to have on somebody. And that's why I appreciate when these guys take that time with their fans. Mm-hmm. And we have all three been fortunate enough to get to know some of these dudes, and we're not name dropping or anything like that, but we've been able to become friends with some of these guys through industry work or whatever we've done. And you see that they're just good dudes taking care of, themselves and others. And it's just really nice to see people like that.
I remember the first time I met Mark. I remember the first time I met Mark Fields.
Yeah. He just chimed in. That's the vocalist of Siege, by the way.
And he's pretty good. He's pretty good at metal trivia too.
Yeah, he is. Proclamation and among others. All right, Carcass, show us your numbers, and then I want to tell you my last story.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
Let me share one more real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my buddy and I, the guy Trog. If you guys follow me on No Life to Metal, Trog. Trog and I were in Vegas, and we went to go see this cover band play at the some club out in there. And it was just some friend of his friends that wanted us to go check him out. We're like, you want to go? Nah. We finally end up going. So we sit down at this club, and there's just all these tables, and we're hanging out. And the band gets on there, and they're playing. I'm looking, I'm like, I know that guitar player. I'm like, holy crap, that's Jimmy Crespo from Aerosmith.
Yeah.
He's up there. So I guess he lives in Vegas. So he's up there playing. I'm like, yeah. He goes, no way, dude. I'm like, I'm telling you, that's Jimmy Crespo from Aerosmith. I said, if there's one band I know, it's Aerosmith. They've always been my favorite band since I was a kid. That's Jimmy Crespo. And sure enough, when they broke to do their, they had a break in between sets. I walked right up to him like, "Are you Jimmy Crespo?" He goes, "Yes, I am." And he said, so anyhow, my first concert ever was Aerosmith with Jimmy Crespo on guitar. So I told him the story, and he sat there and listened, and he handed me a guitar pick. I didn't ask him for an autograph or anything. We did take a picture with him, but it was just cool to see him. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just filling in for him for the night." And the guitar player was out of town, so they needed someone to fill in. So he was up there, and they ended up playing a few Aerosmith songs with him and everything. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And yeah.
That's very, very cool. Yeah, love stuff like that. All right, Carcass, show us the list.
Okay, I got 4 names left.
What are they?
Rob Halford, Russ Anderson of Forbidden, Schmear from Destruction, or John Perez from the mighty Solitude Eternus and the Metal Roundtable's own.
You've told the Halford story before. I know which one you're going to tell.
Okay.
Man, I'm torn. I want to give JP some love.
Oh, I'm happy to tell the story of how I met John Perez.
John Perez is it.
Okay.
Do it.
So I used to
for 1 second. I'll be right back.
I used to have this this fanzine that I when I worked in the cemetery business. Yes, I worked in the cemetery business. I was on the outside, not the inside part of it. But woohoo! Anyway, I used to have a fanzine called Hepatitis News, and I would do record reviews, and I would do, kind of like you do, Scott. And
Sure.
This was back in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's funny. Halford signed Mark's head. But anyway, and that's how I met some killer bands like Obituary, Devastation, became friends of mine because of this silly fanzine that I was doing. Well, Solitude Eternus had just released an album called Downfall, and the production was terrible, and the songs were iffy, and I was such a huge Solitude Eternus fan that I was actually kind of disappointed. And I said, in my review of the record, I said, all I can say is that the title is an apt name for what's going to happen to the band as a result of this record. It's going to be their downfall. And so fast forward to the Austin Record Convention, and lo and behold, there's John Perez at a booth selling records for Brain Ticket, which was his little side project. And I met him, and I said, and in the interim, I had re-listened to Downfall multiple times, and I started to really like it. In fact, it became one of my favorite Solitude Eternus records, and I had ditched the go figure. The Hepatitis News got so big, I just couldn't keep up with the readership, and I just stopped doing it because I got up to like I was having to do it like 1,000 copies a month, and so I just stopped doing it. So I never got a chance to publicly apologize to John for calling his record Downfall the downfall of the band. But when I met him, I said, I have to apologize to you. And he said, I know who you are. You're the guy that said that Downfall sucked. And he goes, and it did. But then we did a couple things to it, and now it doesn't. And I said, no, the album never did stink. It was never a bad record. I was just in a bad place at the time. And so when I listened to it, and from that point forward, he and I have been, I mean, we've been like two Johns in a pod. We've been like two brothers ever since. And you talk about a guy that's very, very kind and very, very accommodating. And it's a joy to go see him on stage. In fact, Rob, I'm glad you got to see him actually play, because wherein, and this is
beast mode.
This is no knock on his band, but generally they were statues. And then there was this, it was very Barney-esque, where everyone from Napalm just kind of is stationary as they play, but Barney is like this, swatting bees and doing his thing. And John is much the same. Everyone's a statue on stage, and there's John.
Oh, he crushed it.
Like Viking power up there. Yeah. And so it's great to still be involved in him, even in his life, even though we didn't start off. It was a little bit of a bumpy road, but even he admitted that Downfall wasn't their best effort. but we've become fast friends and stayed that way for many, many years. In fact, when the last Solitude Eternus record, in short, became sort of a mantra for a very terrible time in my life, and so he and I have a connection there, and so that's my John Perez story, and all the other ones are kind of funny too, but we don't have time.
Yeah.
But you know what? You had mentioned something to me about how we sort of had met each other, and none of this, what we're doing right now, would have been possible had I not had a cassette deck breakdown. And I just happened to be in Born Late Records, and you can call it cosmic circumstance, whatever, but I would have never known Scott.
It was the metal gods.
And I would have never known Rob had I not had this cassette problem. So I asked our buddy Henry Vasquez at Born Late Records, thank you for still being alive and kicking in the record business. I know this 2020 thing has been tough on everybody. But I walked in and I said, Henry, I got to have a cassette deck. Do you know anybody that's got a cassette deck? And this voice from beyond said, I have cassette decks. In fact, I have a bunch of cassette decks. And I turned, and here's this little man.
It looked something like this.
That's exactly how it looked. I think he was back in the... I don't know if they had a hair metal section or not, but he was right behind me. But anyway, and so to my point, we became fast friends. He hooked me up with not only one cassette, but I think 2 cassettes, and it's been, the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
And we used to go to lunch once a week on Fridays, and we just got to talking about how much we just like hanging out and talking about metal. Gee whiz, we should do a podcast or a show or something. And that was the genesis of what we're doing right now. Yeah. And had I not had that issue, I would have never met you. And then I would have never met Scott.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, my story is the same, because I was standing back there flipping through CDs and heard you say something about a cassette deck. And I'm like, I got one, I'll give you, and I remember pitching the idea, hey dude, I just want to do this thing, low budget, just simple, and do this thing called the Metal Roundtable. And of course you were all over it. And then we've been doing that already for a couple of years now. And then how did I meet Scott? I remember, I've known about Scott for a long time, mostly because I've done mastering work and he's done artwork for some of the labels. So now Scott and I, we talk all the time on the phone and do business together. But how I met him, I think, was at a Rock Fest show. I think the first time I met him in person,
2007.
I think it was before that.
1997, excuse me.
Yeah, it must have been 97, 98, somewhere around in there, because I went to see all these metal bands play down north of Austin, and Ultimatum played, and I was like, holy crap, that's the guys from Ultimatum. And didn't really get to know him until the past couple of years when we've done so much work together. But that's how I remember it. Is that kind of how you remember it?
Yep, it's exactly how I remember. We met at that show. You were actually selling music at your table, and that's when I walked up and introduced myself to you. And you were, I think, did you have Bombworks Records at the time?
No, that hadn't happened yet. That didn't happen until 04.
You were just selling music, because I remember you had piles of CDs and tapes, or not, maybe not even CDs, might have been tapes.
I remember.
I just remember you had the Ultimatum Symphonic Extremities demo in there, and I bought it from you because
you know who I was sharing the table with? Martin Bailey from Metal Blade Records.
Metal Blade Records, that's right. He was there. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Martin Bailey and I, whose dad is the great G.W. Bailey. Google that one. And so that's how we all ran into each other. But I want to tell one last story. Is that cool? I know we're going long today, but I want to tell one last story.
Go for it.
So I've been in and out of this type of music over the years. Sometimes I love it. Sometimes I hate it. But these dudes, I got through Matt Hunt, who we both do work for. Scott and I both do work for his label. Matt called me one day and said, "Hey man, do you want to go to Vegas and spend 3 days in the studio? Because this dude named Bill Minchin was recording an album and he was going to have this drummer playing on it." And I was like, "Yeah, man, let's go. This will be fun. We'll go to Vegas and we'll do the strip and we'll hang out and we'll have fun." Well, the person that was playing drums on Bill's record was Robert Sweet from Stryper. And I'd been a Stryper fan along with, I threw them in with everybody else. I loved them as much as I loved Cinderella and Rat and Poison and White Lion and Steelheart and all that kind of stuff. They were just one of those bands for me. And I just loved them. And so the chance to go meet Robert Sweet was just a no-brainer. So I took a cheap flight out and we all stayed at the Stardust. And I remember going into the studio and we hung out in the studio for 3 days with Robert Sweet. And I was nervous about it because this was, again, a rock star hero. And I'm like, man, I don't know what we can say to the guy or what. I don't know what to ask him because this is a bona fide rock star. This dude sold millions of records. Yep. And I just didn't know how to handle it. And so when we got there, no pun intended, he was the sweetest guy ever. And he said, "Hey guys, before we get started recording and hanging out and everything, I want you to know I will tell you about anything." He said, "You can ask me anything you want. I will tell you about, I'll tell you about the money. I'll tell you about the fame. I'll tell you about anything you want to know." And man, he was not kidding. He pulled the curtain all the way back for us. And we talked and talked and talked, and we gambled together, and we ate Thai food together. And we had the greatest time for those 3 days. But that was not what made the biggest impression on me. We went and picked him up on the last day. We were in Bill's truck, and Bill had a big crew cab pickup, is the way I remember it. And so he and Robert would ride in the front, Matt and I would ride in the back. So we pull up to pick up Robert in front of his house, and Robert gets in, and of course he looks perfect. His hair is made up. He is made up. I mean, he is ready to go put on the bus driver hat that he used to and go play for Stryper. I mean, he's ready. He is a rock star. So he gets in and he shuts the door and he tells Bill, "Hey, don't pull away yet. I want to take a few minutes and talk to you guys." Talking to me and Matt. He's got this huge shopping bag, like you'd go to the store and get a big old paper bag, square paper bag. And he looks at Cliffy, who was with us, another mastering engineer. He looks at Cliffy and he goes, "Cliffy, I know you do this and you're into that. Here's the shirt from the Reborn photo session. I want you to have it." He gives Matt like a 24-inch symbol and scribbles, "Hey man, thank you. I'm playing on these records for Bill. Thank you for supporting my music. Here's this. Here's that." Here, he gave us all signed sticks, which I still have up there. He gave us all signed photos. I was able to share some sticks because he gave me like 4 signed drumsticks, and I've shared those. I kept the one, but then he looks at me because I had a belt buckle on, and he noticed that somehow. I had a belt buckle that I've had since I was in 5th or 6th grade, and he noticed it. And so he goes, "Rob, I want to give you this. I know you're a belt buckle guy." He said, "This is a prototype belt buckle that we had made, and it didn't work out because of the sharp, pointy corners. We ended up having to, do something different." But he said, "Each guy in the band got one of these as a prototype, and I'm going to give you mine." Who does that? What kind of person that has spent all that time on the road, top MTV hits, and millions of records? Who takes that kind of time? I'll tell you who. Robert Sweet. And he was so good to us, and he answered all our questions. So many stories that I could never, ever repeat. He took us inside fully the Stryper camp, if you will, And I just couldn't believe it. And I wouldn't, I mean, there were no sordid, nasty stories, but he took us inside the business of the good and bad things that happen to them. That's what I mean. And it was just interesting to see him tell the rise and the subsequent fall later and what that did to him personally. And it was just amazing the things that those dudes went through. And maybe someday we can get him on or one of the dudes from the band to tell those stories if they want, because I'm certainly not going to. But as far as meeting rock stars, all the way from cattle calls to meet and greets to chance happenings to getting to know people outside my Larry Berrigan signed guitar that's sitting right over there.
And where'd you get that?
Yeah, I got that from the Carcass. This is the coolest memory of meeting a rock star that I've ever had because of the time spent. So that's it. We're at an hour, guys. I'm sorry I can't shut up. You guys got any parting shots?
No, it's just great that well, all these people are humans. We're all human beings.
Yep.
And despite the fact that they've got a cool job, cooler than probably most of ours, except maybe Scott. Scott's got a cool job too, running No Life Till Metal. But they're all human beings. But yet still, it's fun and it's exciting to meet them. But I was just excited to hear that the voice from beyond say, "I have a cassette deck and you can have one," as I would be if Rob Halford were reaching out and giving me one of 100 picks that he has made every year. So
that's awesome.
So onward and upward in 2021. I look forward to hanging out with the power trio. I like that idea. You know me and power trios. I dig that. And so that's it. That's all I got.
Awesome. How about you, Brother Scott?
I'm good, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on time now.
Yeah. I saw Spicoli chime in just a second ago saying that was a rad belt buckle. Spicoli, we have got to get together because I have something for you that is going to make you poop your little panties. Okay? You're going to be stoked, man. I can't wait to give you this gift that I have for you. It also includes, in Spicoli's gift, I'm going to give this part away. I'm giving him a set of limited edition the Metal Roundtable coasters. How about that?
Nice.
But that's not the good part. All right, boys. Well, I say we do a part 2 down the road because we've got so many cool stories. I didn't tell a third of the stories that I've got, and I know you boys have got more too. So
I've got a bunch more names on my list because Carcass makes lists.
Let's do a part 2 down the road. Hey, guys, for episode 78, am I right?
That is correct.
I am Metal Rob. Scott Waters, thank you for coming on board. We love you like a brother. Thank you for being here. And the Carcass, virtual hug. I can't believe it's already been 2 years or however long it's been.
Oh, God, it's been a long time, man.
Been a while. Yeah, man. Yeah. So thanks for the stories. And you know how we roll at the end. Until next time.
Metal will prevail.